Ladies and gentlemen, with that, it's time to set the stage, and we aptly call it the Fireside Chat. And the reason is this is where we are focusing on unleashing the power of digital twins. And we're going to do that by inviting our speakers on stage as we focus more on revolutionizing supply chain management. And we're going to do this by having a Fireside Chat, which will be spearheaded by Mr. Ajay Nair, partner and leader supply chain PwC. So once again, Mr. Nair will be joining us to extract all the relevant perspectives from his fellow panelists. All right, so meanwhile, what I shall do is also invite both of our speakers on stage. Once again, if I could please invite Mr. Satish Panchpakesan, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer, Arvind Fashions. May I also please invite Peeyush Kaushik, Vice President, Business Leader and Head of Healthcare Innovation Center, Philips. So let's have both of our speakers on stage, and we'll have Mr. Ajay Nair spearhead this fireside chat for all of us. Okay, I am generally stoked about anything to do with the digital twins as a concept, especially I have experienced that in the automotive sector, but over here, I'm really excited. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're all excited about it as well, can we double up the applause? We're talking about the power of digital twins. Let's double up the applause, bring in the energy, and with that, Mr. Ajay Nair, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. With that, Mr. Nair, over to you then.
Good afternoon, everyone. With my panelists, it's a bit of an interesting and exciting topic, digital twins, and I think many of you would have heard a lot about digital twins, and it's a oft-repeated word in the supply chain space, especially, I would say, over the last 5 years. I think, in some form, the whole disruption driven by COVID resulted in, at least in our experience, about many organizations starting to think that how does one look at digital twins to help manage resilience? And we saw organizations trying to go beyond their own individual supply chains to customers and suppliers to see how digital twins can help with that. So that's a bit of that area of digital twins, which kind of we are seeing that as a future of how supply chains are going to bring this together. And often feel that it's an area which has its own set of opportunities, but it has its own set of challenges when you look at digital twins. So, but when we, look at digital twins, and probably I'll start with you, Satish, and, one of the things that might be useful for the audience to understand is that what are some of the applications of digital twins that you've seen in your experience from a business standpoint, and the impact of that on business that you would have seen?
Sure. So, put it very simplistically, right, to kind of demystify, digital twin is already a prevalent practice, but people use the idea in multiple ways. Different companies use the ideas of a digital twin in multiple ways that kind of, suits the context. But to me, digital twin is really something which replicates the product or the solution, right, or the service across the journey, starting from, the creation of the problem statement or the creation of the product idea or the product design to the point of it getting transformed into a productionable unit, to the point of it getting, into the moment of truth, which is when it actually meets the customer, right? So what are some of the attributes that actually define the various facets of the product or the service, and how we can actually replicate it into an enterprise to visualize that journey? And I will give you a very simple example, again putting it back the context to my own industry, which is fashion retail. So typically, in fashion retail, every garment on an average is actually described by about 150, 160 attributes, right? Starting from the product attribute to its handling characteristics, to the way it is stored in the warehouse, what type of merchandising that has to be done in retail, are there any environmental clauses attached to that? So there are as it could be as high as 250, depending on how much you want to fine grain the master data attributes. It can actually get to that level. Our ability to actually assess, analyze, and act upon each of these attributes in a digitally connected way, in an intelligent way, which actually helps us transform some of these decisions to the product itself and the quality of the product and the sustainability of the product is actually one aspect of how we try to implement digital twin within our own industry.
So thanks. I think the end-to-end journey map, I think you well described what a digital twin can be and with some application. But, Peeyush, coming to you, when you look at resilience in supply chain and when you go to connect the digital twin, are there some applications or areas that you've seen kind of usage of digital twins to help build resilience?
Sure. Thanks, Ajay. Well, when it comes to resilience, there are many companies from different industries have been already using digital twins to develop the resilience in supply chain. And there's no better example than COVID. And I'm giving this example COVID because some company has utilized, but there was much bigger opportunity we have had if the organization would have used digital twins, would have captured the starting from supply material availability, that's where it starts from, to the demand fluctuations, right? And getting the real-time data to ensure that both parties, customers and suppliers, and of course you have manufacturer, they are intact with this fluctuation in the demand and supply. And it also triggered many other things, like starting from the real-time data to trigger an alarm that hey, there's a change in the demand supply, and also not stopping there, finding out solution through the digital twins, and also testing those actions, whether they are working or not working, before we applying in the supply chain. Those all are possible in digital twins. And there are many organizations have used it, but I'm sure others are taking the steps.
So I think this is an excellent explanation of the application of digital twin in supply chain, the ability to look at the data end to end, real time, and also see the implications of that when some disruptions are happening and how you take action from that. So excellent explanation. Satish, coming, when you take this view and then we heard today a lot about considerations on sustainability and ESG. Now, and when you marry that with a digital twin, what are some thoughts in this area? How can the digital twin can be an area of application?
So, if you look at textiles in general and garments and fashion, in more specifics, some of the big differentiators for the brands are actually personalization, right? And personalization at scale, mass personalization, and ability to actually define the product to the last attribute to a customer's liking in a way, that actually increases the proposition of the product, right? There are more simple views like make to measure and stuff like that, but in our industry, it's very important to actually translate, the scale and the mass into units. And when we do this translation of the mass into units, typically what happens is we end up in a lot of what we call as sampling errors, right? And these sampling errors or sampling issues are could potentially be garments which actually end up in a landfill, or could end up being sold in a very unsustainable or unprofitable way for the company.
Right.
And so these are situations that we want to avoid, right? And one simple use case for digital twinning vis-a-vis our industry, and it probably applies to every industry where there's a good amount of personalization in the product characteristics that you're building, is how do you, reduce this, sampling loss, right, between the mass and between the units, between the personalized units. And so that this is something, every organization of our scale measures very actively. And there are, definitely, machine learning, creating various combination of and cohorts of, customer and product profiles and trying to match them and seeing how different channels within our business responds to different types of products, right? For example, something which is, say, an online product has a slightly different characteristic in terms of just because of the segment of consumer who are slightly different vis-a-vis, a more traditional B2B or a trade type of product where you will have more family cohorts, you will have more, probably senior cohorts and stuff like that. So these are some of the, areas that where we are actually looking to mimic the influence of the consumer preferences on the product and the product attributes itself. Ultimately, we want to reduce the sampling error because that is where we will be more sustainable. We will make sure that there is no landfill that is getting, deposited because of a huge amount of samples getting unsold. And this is actually a big area of focus, and it's just not as a supplier, manufacturer, as a retailer that we do it. It actually, the whole idea extends all the way back till, the mills, right? Because they have to convert, certain, cones of textiles and certain units. And they also have to, because the sustainability issues they will have will be slightly different from compared to what we have. So we have to look at this whole thing holistically. That's the way we are trying to address it.
So personalization to minimization of sampling error. Excellent. Coming to you, Peeyush, if I were to look at, what are some of the future digital solutions that you see coming in this whole space of building digital twins?
Yeah, I mean, this is an era of innovation, and innovation needs to happen, right? Whether it is process, product, or solutions. I would like to go into like 3 different baskets here. One is zoom in. Zoom in meaning is we need to continue to work more on accuracy of the simulation tools. See, these digital tools are simulation tools in the end.
Right.
And they are accurate to a particular level. But tomorrow it's going to require, if really want to go further next step, will be more accuracy there. So there's going to be more in that space. Then the zoom out. The zoom out is, for example, for management or the senior leadership of the organization, they want to have a bigger picture. So how they would like to see the complete end-to-end picture in a very user-friendly way. So there will be a lot of emphasis on the how can we make it more user-friendly, the simulation tool, rather than a very data-oriented or different only Excel-based kind of tools.
Right.
And finally, of course, this era of AI and data analytics, I think they will drive the innovation in that field, is starting not only for making the small decision-making, but for more strategic decision-making, where AI and data analysis can help to develop the capability in the organization to take those calls. So these are the 3 areas which I see it.
Great. So zoom in for accuracy, zoom out for decision-making, and AI and analytics. Excellent. Maybe we'll probably have 30 seconds each for you, given the time constraint. So over to you, Satish. Very quickly, what do you see some of the critical success factors in implementing digital twins?
I think the only thing I will say is we'll have to look at it holistically. It is not a local problem that we have to solve in digital twin. It is a global problem. So whether it's a product starting from its design to, construction of the product, garmenting of the product, to merchandising, to the moment of truth, right? We'll have to look at it holistically. And I think that will actually yield a lot of benefits.
Fine. And, Peeyush, last to you. How do you see these are supported by your ecosystem of partners, digital twins?
Yeah, so partner meanings are many partners, starting of course, for a manufacturer, suppliers are partner, but also the customers, right? And government. So this is the complete ecosystem. And some of the element is common for vendors and the manufacturer, directly and indirectly. Directly is basically your infrastructure needs to be supported to have the digital twins, right?
Right.
Whether it's IT infrastructure and whatnot, and the challenge is to have in the existing infrastructure, not in the new infrastructure, because most of the organizations bring the infrastructure already. Indirectly, there would be a time is we used to have this design for manufacturing, design for assembly. I think there will be a time design for digital twins. Because we need to design the material component product to adopt digital twins. Because you got to have those kind of product which can be traceable. And then coming to customer, 2 points from customer perspective. One, they need to allow the data sharing. Because many customers, they don't allow the data sharing, right? And the secondly, they also need to share their infrastructure to be upgraded to have those digital twin simulation. And last, from the government, they need to promote to have digital twins to have more sustainability.
Fantastic. So our time's up, but fantastic conversation. I hope you all had the opportunity to understand digital twins better, implications on supply chain to build resilience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to march ahead, I'd also like to firstly thank for that very crisp session and yet a very insightful session for all of us. Meanwhile, if I could please request Mr. Vijay Kumar, Chairman, Inland Waterways Authority of India, to please come on stage to present a token of gratitude to all of our three speakers. So if I may request your presence on stage as well. I'd like to request all of you to please come together for a group photograph.